Found my husband's dead first wife's journals describing him as a serial cheater who isolated her until she was suicidal. Then discovered he'd been recreating their exact photos and trips with me in the same locations wearing the same outfits. Hi everyone. This is a long story. I, Dina, 33F, have been married to my husband, Marcus, 37M, for a year now. We met through mutual friends, and everything happened so quickly. Like, one moment we were casually talking, and the next thing I knew, we were engaged within 5 months and married within a year. I guess when you know, right? Or at least, that's what I thought at the time. Marcus was married before. His first wife, Aaliyah, was his high school sweetheart. They were together for 7 years until she passed away. All I knew about her was what Marcus told me, that she had struggled with her mental health and, ultimately, took her own life 3 years before we met. He didn't talk about her much, and I never pushed. I mean, it's a painful subject. But here's where things start getting weird. We have an attic in our house, but I had never been up there. Not once. It was always dusty and cluttered, and Marcus told me there was nothing but old junk. No point in cleaning it up, according to him. But this spring, I got into this whole declutter and deep clean mode, and I decided it was time to tackle the attic. That's when I found the locked box. Now, I'm not usually the snooping type. Okay, maybe a little, but something about this box just screams secrets. So, I casually asked Marcus for the key. And his reaction? Weird as hell. He got all defensive and told me to just leave the attic alone. He was acting so weird about it that my gut immediately told me he was hiding something. And let me tell you, when your gut tells you something is off, listen to it. Fast forward a week later, and the perfect opportunity presented itself. Marcus had to go to his mom's place because she wasn't feeling well, and he was going to stay there for a whole week. The moment he left, I knew what I was going to do. I bought some tools to break the lock. It was old and rusty, so it didn't take much effort to snap it open. My heart was racing as I lifted the lid, and inside, I found a stack of journals and some photo albums. All of them belonged to Aaliyah. Now, I felt kind of weird about going through a dead woman's personal thoughts, especially since she was my husband's late wife. But come on, I'm only human. And at this point, curiosity had me in a chokehold. So, I started reading. And what I found was absolutely horrifying. Aaliyah wrote about her relationship with Marcus in excruciating detail. She talked about how he was a serial cheater, how he would disappear for days with no explanation, only to come back acting like nothing happened. But at the same time, he was obsessively jealous, insecure, and controlling. He didn't let her talk to her family and slowly isolated her from everyone she loved. She wrote about how lonely and trapped she felt, how she stayed depressed for days, how she started to lose herself. And the way she wrote about him, it was clear she loved him at some point, but she was also terrified of him. The more I read, the more disturbed I felt. Because this was not the Marcus I knew. Or at least, not the Marcus I thought I knew. I spent the next 2 days just devouring every word, feeling sick to my stomach. And then, I got to the photo albums. At first, everything seemed normal, just a couple documenting their life together. But then I started noticing something. The places they had visited? Marcus and I had been there too. Not just the same places, but the same poses. He even had the same outfits in a few of those photos. There was a picture of them at a beach, standing by a rock. I had a photo with Marcus in that exact same spot. Another one of them at a little cafe, smiling over coffee. I had the exact same picture, same angle, same table. It wasn't just 1 or 2 pictures, it was dozens. It was like Marcus had been meticulously recreating the memories he had with Aaliyah, but with me in her place. My entire body went cold. I felt disgusted. Confused. Betrayed. Was I just a replacement? Was I his way of reliving his past with her? And then the worst thought hit me. Did Aaliyah take her own life because of him? Because after reading her journals, I was so confused. Marcus wasn't home, so there was nothing I could do but wait. And let me tell you, waiting while holding on to this kind of information? Pure torture. I had to act normal when he called to check in. Had to pretend everything was fine. But inside, my mind was spinning, trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do next. Because one thing was certain. I didn't feel safe anymore. And I wasn't sure if I ever really knew the man I married. So, day before yesterday, Marcus came back home. I was already on edge, but I tried to act normal. I asked him about his mom, made some small talk, and waited for the right moment. I wasn't sure how to bring it up without him completely shutting down, but at the same time, I couldn't keep it in any longer. My stomach was in knots, and my hands were sweating as I pulled out the journals and the photo album. I placed them on the table in front of him and just watched his reaction. He barely glanced at them before his face darkened. That was my first clue that he knew exactly what they were. He didn't even ask what I was holding, which was weird. The second clue was his immediate anger. No shock, no confusion, just straight up anger. He snapped at me, saying that I had violated his trust, that I had no right to dig through his things. He went on about how this was his past, that I had crossed a boundary, and how disappointed he was in me for not respecting his privacy. He was so focused on making me feel guilty that he didn't even ask what I had read. Not once. I pushed past that because I wasn't going to let him guilt trip me into silence. I asked him directly if everything Aaliyah wrote was true. The cheating, the isolation, the way he treated her. He brushed it off, saying she was depressed and that she saw things differently. That's when I showed him the photos. The matching outfits, the identical locations. I asked him if he had intentionally been recreating their memories with me. He just scoffed, called me paranoid, and said I was overthinking everything. It was such a nonchalant, dismissive response that it made me feel crazy for even bringing it up. But I knew what I saw. The same beach, the same pose, the same restaurant, even the same stupid red scarf that I thought was a sweet, random gift from him. Turns out, Aaliyah had worn an identical one in one of their pictures. How was I supposed to believe that was just a coincidence? Instead of answering, he grabbed his keys and walked out. He didn't come back that night. No explanation, no apology, nothing. The next morning, he strolled in like nothing had happened. He barely looked at me, changed his clothes, and got ready for work. That's when I asked where he was, and without missing a beat, he said he had crashed at Brian's place. I didn't argue, didn't accuse him of anything, I just let it go. But the more I sat alone in that house, the more everything started feeling wrong. The attic, the journals, the photos, his reaction, the way he just left, the way he avoided any real answers, it all felt like pieces of a puzzle that I couldn't quite put together. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed answers from someone who wasn't Marcus. That's when I decided to visit his mom. I don't know what I was expecting, but the second I mentioned Aaliyah, she stiffened. Her entire body language changed. She became defensive, like she was trying to shut the conversation down before it even started. I tried to ease into it, but I couldn't hold it in. I told her everything I had found. The journals, the photos, Marcus's reaction, the fact that he had disappeared for the night. She just shook her head and told me that I should talk to Marcus about it. That it wasn't her place. But I couldn't let it go. I practically begged her to tell me the truth, and that's when she finally admitted that Marcus and Aaliyah's relationship had been toxic. That yes, he had cheated on her. A lot. That yes, it had worsened her mental health. But beyond that, she didn't want to say much. And then, before I left, she said something that I can't stop thinking about. Some habits are hard to quit. At first, I didn't understand what she meant. But as I was driving home, it clicked. She was talking about Marcus. She was talking about his habits. Marcus had a habit of disappearing for the night. Marcus had a habit of cheating. And just last night, Marcus had disappeared again. I don't know what came over me, but I grabbed my phone and called Brian. I knew I had to be careful because if I straight up asked him if Marcus had been there, he might lie for him. So instead, I acted casual. I told him Marcus had been stressed with work lately and asked if he had seemed off when they last hung out. Brian, being completely unaware of what I was trying to do, casually told me that the last time they saw each other was last week and everything was fine then. That's when my stomach dropped. Marcus lied. He wasn't at Brian's. He was somewhere else. And that was it for me. That was my breaking point. I couldn't sit in that house any longer, waiting for him to come home and act like nothing was wrong. I packed a bag, grabbed my essentials, and left. I drove straight to a hotel and checked in. I haven't spoken to him since. Right now, I'm sitting in a hotel room, staring at my phone, waiting for something. But I don't even know what I want at this point. Did I make the right choice? Did I overreact? Am I throwing away my marriage over a gut feeling, or is my gut right? I don't know. I just feel sick. Update 1. Hey everyone, first of all, thank you for all the responses. Seriously, I wasn't expecting this many people to care about my mess of a situation, but reading through your comments made me feel a little less crazy. I know a lot of you were saying to just leave, that I don't need any more proof or explanations, but I guess part of me wasn't ready to just walk away without confronting him one last time. I don't know if that was smart or just me being stubborn, but either way, I decided to go back home before Marcus got there. I left my bags at the hotel just in case, but I needed to see his reaction when he walked in and realized I knew for sure that he was lying. Maybe I was hoping for some sort of confession, some breakdown where he'd finally tell me the truth. Maybe I just wanted to give him a chance to explain, even though deep down, I already knew there was no good explanation for any of this. So, I sat there. And I waited. By the time Marcus actually came home, it was 2 a.m. I was half asleep on the couch, but the second I heard the front door open, my whole body tensed up. I don't know what I was expecting, but when I looked at him, he just seemed normal. Not guilty, not apologetic, not even surprised to see me waiting there. Just tired. I asked him where he had been. He barely even looked at me when he said, "Work ran late." At this point, I was so past playing along. I told him I had called his office and they said he had left hours ago. He didn't even flinch. He just shrugged and said he had a late dinner with a client. The ease with which he lied to me was honestly chilling. He wasn't scrambling for an excuse, wasn't even annoyed that I caught him in a lie. He just moved on to the next one, like it was second nature. Like he had done this a million times before. I told him we needed to talk. That I wasn't just going to let this go. But he just sighed like I was the one exhausting him and said, "I'm too tired for this right now." And then he just walked straight past me, into the bedroom, and closed the door behind him. That was it. No fight, no attempt to make me believe his story, nothing. I stood there for a second, just staring at the closed door like maybe I had imagined the whole thing. And then I snapped. I went up to the door and started banging on it. I don't even know what I was saying at that point, just demanding that he open the damn door and talk to me. That he couldn't just shut me out like this. I banged on that door for 30 minutes. Nothing. Not a word. Not even a leave me alone. He just ignored me like I didn't exist. Like I wasn't his wife standing outside the door, desperate for answers. Eventually, I gave up. My hands were shaking, my heart was pounding, and I just felt empty. So, I grabbed my keys, walked out of the house, and drove straight back to the hotel. And now here I am. Sitting in this crappy hotel room at 4 a.m., writing this post because I don't know what else to do. I don't even know what I want at this point. Closure? An apology? A reason to stay? A reason to leave? I keep going over everything in my head, trying to piece it all together. Trying to figure out if I'm being dramatic, if I'm overreacting. But I don't think I am. I think I know I'm not. Update 2. Hey everyone, I don't even know how to start this because my brain feels like it's short-circuiting. I feel numb. I feel stupid. And mostly, I feel like the biggest idiot on the planet for ever thinking Marcus was someone he clearly isn't. I know a lot of you told me to just let this go, to take what I already knew and leave. But I couldn't. I needed to hear him say it. I needed to look him in the eyes and see if there was even a shred of remorse. Maybe I wanted to give him one last chance to be honest, to own up to everything instead of hiding behind his usual dismissive attitude. Or maybe I was just looking for a reason to finally walk away without any lingering doubts. So, I did the one thing I knew he wouldn't be able to ignore. I went to his office. I walked right into the reception area and asked to see him. The receptionist looked a little confused, maybe even uncomfortable, but she called him anyway. It didn't take long for Marcus to come out. The second he saw me standing there, his entire face changed. His jaw clenched, and he immediately grabbed my arm, pulling me to the side and whispering, "What the hell are you doing here?" He wasn't worried. He wasn't confused. He wasn't scared that something was wrong. He was just pissed. And that reaction alone told me everything I needed to know. I told him I wasn't leaving until he gave me some answers. He sighed like I was some annoying problem he had to deal with and told me to go home, that this wasn't the place to create a scene. That pissed me off even more. I told him that if he didn't want me making a scene, then he needed to talk to me like an adult. So, he rolled his eyes and told me to follow him. We walked to a small cafe a block away. He didn't hold my hand. Didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't even look at me. The second we sat down, he leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and said, "What do you want?" Like I was the one being unreasonable. I took a deep breath because my hands were shaking, and I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break down. I asked him, "Is it true that you cheated on Aaliyah multiple times?" He didn't even blink. "Yes." That's it. No explanation. No justification. Just a yes. I stared at him, waiting for him to say more. Waiting for him to look ashamed or guilty or anything. But he just sat there, his face blank like this was the most casual conversation in the world. So I pushed further. I asked him about the photos, about how every place we had gone together was a place he had already been with her. How even the way we posed in the pictures was the same. How he had me wear clothes that looked almost identical to what Aaliyah wore in those pictures. He sighed like I was exhausting him. "You're looking too much into it." That was it. No denial. No anger. Just pure, dismissive indifference. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears, but I wasn't done. I asked him where he was the night I confronted him. The night he told me he was with Brian. He didn't even flinch when he said, "I was with Brian." And that's when I hit him with it. I told him that I called Brian. That Brian told me they hadn't seen each other in a week. That I knew he was lying and that I knew he was cheating on me. For the first time since we sat down, he actually looked me in the eyes. Not with guilt. Not with regret. But with pure, cold indifference. And then he said, "What do you want me to say?" That broke me. Because in that moment, I realized that he knew I knew the truth. And he didn't care. He didn't care that he had been caught. He didn't care that he had hurt me. He didn't even care enough to try to lie his way out of it. I said, "I want you to tell me the truth." And he did. He looked me right in the eyes and said, "Yes, I cheated. And no, it wasn't the first time." And then, with this cold, almost amused look on his face, he said, "Are you happy now? Can I go back to work?" Like this was just another minor inconvenience in his day. Like none of this mattered. Like I didn't matter. I just stared at him, my brain trying to process what I had just heard. How could someone be so cruel? How could he sit there, knowing everything he had done, and not even pretend to care? I asked him, "How could you be this heartless?" And do you know what he did? He paid for the coffee and walked away. Just like that. Like I was nothing. Like this whole conversation never even happened. And now, I'm back at the hotel. How did I let myself fall for someone so emotionally hollow? How did I ignore every red flag, every gut feeling, every little moment that should have made me question him? I don't know what to do. Update 3. Hey everyone. It's been 2 months since my last update, and honestly, I've been all over the place trying to deal with everything. So much has come out since then, and I feel like I've been living in a never-ending nightmare. But I'm finally ready to talk about it. So, as you already know, Marcus was cheating on me. After that last conversation at the cafe, I went back to my hotel and just sat there. I think I was in shock. I couldn't cry. I couldn't even get angry. I just felt empty, like someone had pulled the floor out from under me and I was free falling with no idea when or if I'd hit the ground. The first few days were the worst. I barely ate. I barely slept. I would just lie in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our relationship in my head, trying to pinpoint the exact moment I should have known. Because the signs were there, weren't they? The weird little moments where my gut told me something was off, but I ignored it because I didn't want to be that person, the paranoid, insecure wife who made problems out of nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. And now, I was sitting in a hotel room, completely alone, while Marcus went on with his life like nothing happened. He didn't even care. I didn't get a single call or text from him, not even a fake apology or a pathetic attempt to win me back. The only messages I got were short, emotionless texts asking where certain things were in the house. Where's the spare car key? Do you know where my gray suit is? Not even a "how are you?" Or "are you okay?" It was like I had already been erased from his life, like I was just some ex-roommate who moved out and left behind a few loose ends. That hurt more than anything. But slowly, I started picking myself up. I forced myself to eat, even when I didn't want to. I started taking walks just to get out of my own head. And at some point, I realized that sitting in that hotel room, wallowing in pain, wasn't going to change anything. Marcus had already decided I wasn't worth his time. The least I could do was prove to myself that I was worth mine. So, after 2 weeks of hiding away, I finally went back home. Just to get my stuff. It was a Sunday. When I walked in, he was sitting on the couch watching TV, looking completely relaxed, like I hadn't just disappeared from our home for 2 weeks. He barely even looked surprised to see me. I told him straight up, I'm just here to pack my things. And do you know what he said? Are you sure about this? Are you serious? Am I sure? I just stared at him, feeling this overwhelming mix of rage and disbelief. After everything he had done, after admitting to cheating multiple times with zero remorse, he had the audacity to ask me if I was sure? So I asked him, do you even feel guilty for what you did? And this man, this actual garbage human being, had the nerve to look me right in the eye and say, no, because this is how men are supposed to be. Being monogamous isn't natural. I can't even describe how disgusted I felt in that moment. Like, wow. This wasn't just a mistake. This wasn't some lapse in judgment. This was who he was. I didn't say anything else. I just turned around and went straight to packing. I was done. Done. There was no coming back from this. No salvaging anything. I wanted out of that house and out of his life as fast as possible. I packed everything I could in a couple of suitcases, grabbed my essentials, and was about to walk out when I told him, we should get started with the divorce proceedings soon. And that's when he dropped another bombshell on me. He just smirked, I swear to God. He smirked and said, I won't be divorcing you. I froze. I thought maybe I misheard him. Maybe he was joking. But no. He was serious. He said, divorcing you would be bad for my image in the community. But I don't mind if you want to live separately and do your own thing. I swear, I felt my brain break for a second. Like, what? What community? He wasn't some politician or a religious leader. He was just some guy with a decent job and a few friends. What image was he talking about? But then I realized Marcus didn't care about me. He cared about how he looked to other people. A divorce would make him look bad. A divorce would mean people might start asking questions, and he couldn't have that. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about saving our marriage. It was about control. And in that moment, I knew exactly what I needed to say. I looked him dead in the eye and said, it's not up to you. And then I walked out. I don't think he expected that. I don't think he thought I'd actually go through with it. Maybe he assumed I'd come crawling back, that I'd be too scared to fight him on this. So, I am actually going through my divorce proceedings right now, and let's see where it goes. Update 4. Hey everyone. It's been 6 months since my last update, and honestly, it feels like a lifetime has passed. So much has happened, and I've been meaning to come back and share, but I needed time. But now, I can finally say it. I'm divorced. It still feels unreal saying that. Like, after everything Marcus put me through, after all the fights, the manipulation, and the endless back and forth, it actually happened. Trust me, he made it as difficult as possible. He dragged his feet at every step, refused to sign paperwork, ignored emails from my lawyer, and even tried to guilt trip me into staying married even though we had been living separate lives for months. I think he genuinely thought that if he stalled long enough, I'd just give up and come back. I did not. The entire process drained me. But with time, I started feeling lighter. I started realizing that no matter how hard he tried to drag me down with him, I wasn't going to let him. And then, one day, I got the final paperwork. Divorced. Official. Done. So yeah, I moved into a new place as well. But of course, because nothing in my life can ever just be peaceful, Marcus found out where I live. I don't even know how. I was so careful. I didn't tell mutual friends. I changed my address privately. But somehow, he still figured it out. And of course, the first time he showed up, he was drunk. It was late at night, and I was already in bed when I heard banging on my door. At first, I thought maybe it was a neighbor or someone who needed help, but then I heard his voice. My stomach dropped. I didn't open the door. I just stood there, listening as he slurred insults through the door, calling me a liar, a cheater, which is so ironic coming from him, a selfish bee who ruined his life. He kept saying I would regret this, that I was nothing without him, that I'd come crawling back when I realized how much I needed him. It was honestly pathetic. I didn't respond. I just waited for him to get tired and leave. Eventually, he did. But a few weeks later, it happened again. Same thing, drunk, angry, spewing nonsense at my door like I owed him something. This time, I called the cops. By the time they showed up, he was already gone, but I reported everything and made sure there was a record of it. Because honestly, I don't trust him. I don't know what he's capable of when he's like this, and I refuse to let him scare me into silence. So now, I'm dealing with the aftermath. Mentally, it's been a roller coaster. Some days, I feel like I finally moved on. Other days, I feel right back where I started. I didn't deserve what Marcus did to me. And I definitely don't deserve to have him showing up at my door, thinking he still has any control over my life. I don't know what's next for me, but for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful. Thanks for reading and for being there for me through this. I appreciate everything.